Tommy, today we have two cars that we're going to compare and contrast that directly compete against each other. What are they?
We've got the refreshed 2024 Polestar 2 and of course the legend, the Tesla Model 3 Performance, and we're going to find out which one is better for the money.
Now there is a big difference between the two, and that is price. And we'll get to that at the end of this video, but which one do you want to start with?
Well, let's start with the Polestar 2. Now for 2024, they have updated the design. More importantly, they've updated the powertrain, and they've also updated some of the features on this vehicle. Now starting in the front, you can tell a 2024 from previous model years by this new grille design, this safety zone, and you can see all the sensors are built in here. The front camera, the Polestar 2 comes standard with a 360-degree camera now for 2024. Now this one is the dual motor performance package car. So this is the full enchilada, Dad, 455 horsepower, nearly 550 pound-feet of torque.
Yes, but how much range?
Well, 247 rated.
Which is a lot less than that.
Yep, Tesla rates that car performance all-wheel drive at 315. However, depending on how you spec your dual motor Polestar, you can get upwards of 270 miles of range. It's just this one with the 20-inch wheels, and the performance pack is rated a little bit lower. But those wheels are very fantastic. I apologize for them being a little dirty, but that's kind of winter here in Colorado. The really cool two-tone design with the silver on the black, and we're hiding those large Brembo brakes with the nearly 15-inch drilled disc behind that caliper.
All right, so let's give it a little bit of background in case people don't know what Polestar is. Polestar, I guess in Swedish, means North Star. It's kind of the performance slash luxury brand of Volvo. And Volvo, of course, is owned by Geely, which is a Chinese company. And I'm just saying that so people have an understanding of kind of how Polestar came to be.
Now, Polestar is a separate company from Volvo. The Polestar 2 rides on the CMA platform, which is the same platform that underlies the XC40 Recharge. And it's a sedan, sort of. It sits a little bit higher. And then in the rear, you're actually going to find that the Polestar 2 is really a hatchback because the glass lifts up with the gate there, and you're going to find right around 14 cubic feet worth of space behind the second row.
So let's pop the Tesla back end, which is more of a trunk, Tommy, and we can compare size so you can see what the difference is in terms of size between the Tesla and between the Polestar 2, yeah.
Now the Polestar is actually a little bit longer than the Tesla. It sits at about 181 inches, which is about 4 inches longer than that of the Model 3. And you can also see the trunk opening difference, a much smaller trunk opening in the Model 3. Let me move this blanket out of the way. We have a deep cargo area underneath the floor. It is a usable space, but if you want to haul, for example, a bicycle, you're going to have a much easier time doing that in the Polestar. And then a couple other cool things. We also have a huge deep space in the back of the Polestar 2 and a little divider that lifts up to keep your groceries and your luggage in separate zones.
And don't forget about the ski pass-through.
It's very true, Dad. So both of these have foldable rear seats, but the Polestar's got a little ski pass-through there.
So I think in rear trunk space, the Polestar wins with a little bit more useful opening and more space. How about the front, Tommy? Let's compare the fronks.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's open up the front of the Model Y.
Okay.
Now, the cool thing about the Tesla, or maybe it's not so cool depending on how you look at it, is it comes with a little key card, like a credit card, and then you can control it all in the app. The app I find to be probably the best in the business, so we're going to pop open the front trunk, the push of a button.
And there you have it.
Yeah, really good sized front trunk. No lining though, which I think is a little cheap looking, Dad. You just got that tow eyelet there hanging out in the base.
You know, I love these frunks because they're good for carrying stinky things that you don't want kind of stinking up the cabin. Things like, let's say you go surfing and you got a wet suit that you need to keep wet and not inside the car. Here, of course, you've got a little bit smaller of a frunk.
Yeah, definitely, Dad. Not quite as large, but look, you got a little divider here. Also, it's lined, unlike that in the Tesla. This one, we can find our EVSE there included in the vehicle, which, by the way, you can get with the level 2 connector, which is fantastic, so you don't have to go out and buy your own. And the Tesla, Dad, if you recall, doesn't come with a charger anymore. You actually have to supply your own.
Yeah, but the Tesla, Tommy, is quicker from 0 to 60. In fact, quite a bit quicker.
Yeah, so the Model 3 performance, we're looking at 3.1 seconds according to Tesla versus 4.1 in the Polestar 2.
Thanks for doing that.
You're welcome. Now, battery capacity, that Polestar 2, 78 kilowatt hours. Interestingly enough, the rear-wheel drive for 2024 has got a new pack. The all-wheel drive, though, is reusing the older pack. This Tesla Model 3, Tesla's a little shady about the numbers, but it's around 80 kilowatt hours. And then when we talked about quoted range, Dad, 315 on the Model 3 Performance, 247 on the Polestar 2, but
we've owned this for a year, and there's no way we're getting over 300.
no way.
No way.
It's more like 270, 260 in the real world.
I think in the real world, Teslas in general are 25% less than the stated range. That's just because of the way that they do their EPA cycle. But here in Colorado, on a cold day like this, there's no way this is getting over 300 miles of range.
I do find Polestar to be pretty close to the stated range, though, which is kind of refreshing. But Dad, let's do this. Let's go ahead and hop on the inside and see what they look like.
All right, which one do you want to do first?
We'll do the Polestar first.
All right, let's do the Polestar.
All right, Dad, opening up the doors in the Polestar 2, hopping into the interior. This car does have a $4,000 option for this Napa leather interior. And first of all, let's talk about the rear seat space. How are you feeling back there?
Not good, Tommy. My head is hitting this glass. Well, my part is not glass anymore, but massive glass ceiling, but my head is hitting the back of the car here, Tommy. It's not very comfortable. Are you comfortable? Because I've got plenty of knee room, but no toe room. Can you move your seat into the position that you'd be driving in?
Well, I think I'm going to squish your legs pretty good there.
Keep going. Ah! Just kidding. It's just not a lot of space back here. I would not want to spend a lot of time. Now, keep in mind, I am a little bit taller, 6'2", but still, it's tight back here.
Now, the front seat of the Polestar, things get a lot better. So first of all, we got to talk about the seat design, right? It's very similar to what we've seen in Volvo products, and it is an incredibly comfortable seat, a nice squishy headrest. It's a 12-way adjustable seat. It fits me in all the right positions, and it's just fantastic. Easily one of the best seats in the industry.
Yeah, Volvo has done great seats, and they continue to do them in the Polestar brand.
Yeah, the Polestar brand's just nailed it with the seats in this vehicle. It is a little narrow, and certainly you're right, the headroom does feel a little low, but the overall dash design is minimalist, but with an air of quality. So every area you touch, this finish across the dash, this light pour wood, feels extremely well made, very well screwed together, no wiggle at all in the center console. And let's talk about some of the tech in here, Dad. One thing I love, no on and off button. Just get in, go, right?
Yeah, but Tesla pioneered that. I mean, they're kind of copying Tesla. One thing I love is I do have heated seats back here, which I've just turned on.
Yeah, and we got this 11-inch screen. Now, what Polestar has done, which I think is pretty brilliant, is rather than try to do their own in-house technology, they've actually partnered with Google for this screen design, and it's easy to use. You've got Google Assistant, Google Maps, which is easily the best mapping in the industry. It's just so well done, in my opinion, Dad. Very simple. Of course, there are areas that have to be done by Polestar, like the heated ventilated seat controls, right? This is very Volvo in the way this works, but I find it to be pretty intuitive. We also have the shifter here, Dad, so we've got park versus neutral drive. So if I pull them back, that's going to put us into, quote, gear, and we're off to the races. Full digital instrument cluster. It's a 12.3 instrument cluster. The main screen's about 11 inches. So technology is pretty good. And one thing worth noting too, Dad, which is a big win in my mind, is this vehicle does have Apple CarPlay. It is wired, which is a little bit of a bummer. I would prefer wireless, but at least we have it integrated into the Polestar.
Yeah, that's because it runs on Android, Tommy.
Yeah, maybe perhaps you're right.
They don't play together well. What do you think of these gold seat belts, which also kind of mimic the gold brake calipers?
They look great. Are we going for a ride?
Let's go for a ride, yeah.
All right, let's go for a ride.
The one thing that I don't like about this car is it's got adjustable Olin shocks, but they're a pain in the butt to adjust.
Well, they're manual. You have to kind of do it when the car's parked from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, that's not easy. What there should be is a button that says, I want to make them firm, I want to make them soft, I want to make them normal. You know what I mean? Like everybody else in the business.
So we have some new motor technology for 2024 in the Polestar 2, and the driving experience in this car, in my opinion, is a step above that in the Tesla. This does feel like a more premium, refined experience, and you really notice that when you're cruising along the highway. The sound that makes its way into the cabin is far less in the Polestar than the Tesla. Should we give it an acceleration test, Dad?
Yeah, give it a little bit of the beans, would you?
Yep, we're going to come into a stop here.
All right.
Okay, full throttle, so pretty hard off the line. You got full torque, about 25 miles an hour, and then it shoots forward. Yeah, really strong acceleration.
You know how I can tell it's slower than the Tesla? You don't get that tunnel vision, right? Anything like in the 3-second range, because the blood rushes to the back of my head, I start to get tunnel vision. Here, I don't get tunnel vision. Of course, there are 3 of us in the vehicle, which is going to slow it down.
Now, from a driving standpoint, Dad, I do feel like this car is a little bit more responsive, a little bit more dynamic than the Tesla, especially the steering weight is a little nicer, get some more feedback. These Brembo brakes are incredible. You do have a 1-foot drive mode, which will slow you down without touching the brakes, but I do like the driving experience of this car quite a bit more than the Tesla. It's a little little firm in this performance pack model. I've driven the standard one, especially the rear-wheel drive one's a little more comfy, but it's a very dynamic car.
Just go straight then left.
Okay.
And we can make a big circle. So I've got one issue, and I think this is the problem that's holding Polestar back.
Yeah, what you got?
And that is, I mean, Volvo has done, think of IKEA, minimalist Swedish styling, right? They were the first to kind of come up with this very functional, very minimalist, very stylish approach to styling. But then Tesla came along and basically owned that. And so now, even though Volvo and the Swedes kind of started it, now it just feels like they're copying Tesla, and they're not doing a great job of copying them, right? So Tesla kind of made that aesthetic their own, and now the Volvo looks like it's copying him, even though I don't think it is. You see the problem?
Yeah, but you just said that Polestar, Volvo, and the Swedes invented it, so wouldn't Tesla be copying the Swedes?
Yeah, but they owned it. You can invent something and not own it.
What do you mean they owned it?
Tesla owned it. Tesla brought it and made it, maybe they filtered it to its final extreme, and they kind of made it their own aesthetic, and now it feels like Volvo is copying them, and not in a good way.
Well, first of all, Dad.
Okay, that's where I think. Here's my personal opinion.
You're gonna get some emails from our PR folks, because it is not the same as Volvo. Polestar is a premium luxury and performance division within kind of the Geely brand.
Let me do a better job of explaining that, right? Tesla came along, got rid of all the buttons.
Sure.
Now this has no buttons.
Yeah, but it has buttons where it matters. Like, look, it's got a volume knob. That's great.
But for the most part, all the buttons are gone.
Sure, a lot of them have.
But even though that is now the aesthetic of this car, it feels like it's following down the road that Tesla pioneered. It doesn't feel like it's original to the brand.
Here's where Polestar has exceeded. They have given you buttons where they matter, and knobs and switches, like the vents. Like over here, it's got real mirror controls, unlike the Tesla where you have to go searching in the screen. So I really think that they have given you some buttons and knobs and switches where it counts in the Polestar.
And I'll agree with you. This is minimalist and stylish. Tesla is just minimalist.
Here we go, Dad. In the Model 3.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Got enough room back there?
No, I don't have enough room. But I do have more headroom, Tommy. In fact, I have much more headroom. Same problem, no knee room, and certainly no toe room. It's also pretty tight back here.
Yeah, look, it's both of these cars are fairly small sedans, but let's talk about the seat comfort in comparison to the Polestar. I actually do like the Model 3 seats quite a bit. I find them to be nice and supportive, not too firm, decently bolstered, maybe not quite as adjustable as what you're going to find in the Polestar, but they're good seats, also heated, and heated steering wheel just like the Polestar as well.
Yeah, I find the Polestar seats to be much better.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the headrest is a lot better. They both have the glass roof. The Model 3 does have this bar in the middle, whereas the Polestar puts it more toward the rear of the occupant chamber. Now, let's talk about that minimalist interior. You're right, Dad, because everything is controlled by this large central mounted screen in the Model 3. This does everything from your navigation to your climate control to all of the vehicle settings, all located here in the center of the vehicle. It's actually a very easy system to use. You get used to it very quickly. It's very well established. In my opinion, I would like to see Apple CarPlay. You don't have that option. No Android Auto in the Tesla system. And I also don't love the fact that we don't have like the driver cluster in front of you. What do you think of that, Dad? Do you mind not having an instrument cluster in front of you?
No, I think Tesla's going back to that. I think people have had enough of not having it in front of them. Like in the latest version of the Model S, there is a cluster. And if I recall right, I think the Highland, which is the next generation of this, which we don't get yet, which they get in Europe and in other places, they do have a center cluster, but I could be wrong about that, Tommy.
So another nice touch here, dual wireless charger trays in the Tesla. They work amazing. Nice storage throughout the middle here too, or two cup holders. This long-termer, Dad, needs a good clean inside and out here.
Yeah, we've put on almost 15,000 miles in the year that we've owned it so far. And that's because it gets used on an everyday basis. So the great thing about Teslas is they all kind of work really well with, if you have an Apple phone or if you have an Android phone, it all just kind of integrates very easily. So it's a very easy car to use.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Dad. Does it really integrate easily if it doesn't have Apple CarPlay?
Well, without Apple CarPlay, but still I can play.
Sure, I mean, it's got Bluetooth audio, and you also have you can log into your Spotify account all on here, which is great. I think that's fantastic. Streaming account sign in for Slacker, for example, there, or for Spotify. But yeah, I do like the Apple CarPlay thing. You want to put your seatbelt on, guys, and we're going to take it for a spin.
I already did, Tommy. I was waiting for you to get this car in motion. So I'm good to go, dude.
Now, both of these cars do have all of the safety goodies, adaptive cruise, lane centering, the full safety suite. However, Dad, Tesla's gone to the camera-only system,
Nah, no redundancy.
where Polestar is still using good old-fashioned proximity sensors, right?
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that is a much more reliable and consistent system. We've had a lot of phantom braking issues with this Model 3 that we haven't experienced during our week long with the Polestar 2.
I agree. I think Tesla always is looking to make this car as affordable as possible, which leads to some, interesting cost cutting.
All right, are you ready for the acceleration test?
Go for it. Whoa, yeah, that's faster. Oh my God. Oh, I got tunnel vision, Tommy.
Yeah.
Even with three of us in here, that's much quicker. You can tell.
Noticeable acceleration difference, 100% that. It is a big jump from the Polestar 2 performance to the Model 3 performance. Really has a noticeable difference in acceleration at any speed, even at 28. We'll give another squirt.
Enough of that, would you? That's very unpleasant for passengers if you don't give them a warning.
So from a feature standpoint, Dad, they're pretty comparable. No ventilated seats in this Model 3. We don't have that nice Napa leather in here, and certainly get a lot more intrusion from the road on the driving experience. Now, it is a fun car to drive, especially with the visibility in this. It does feel like you're driving a go-kart. It feels a lot more nimble, a lot more tossable.
So,
I also think it's quite a bit lighter than the Polestar 2.
So here's the problem. I'll give you an example of why this minimalist architecture or design language doesn't work. This car also has heated rear seats.
Mm-hmm.
How do I turn them on?
Oh, I have to do it here.
Exactly.
I have to go here, and then I got to go lose that. I got to go rear.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And you turn them off.
What, do you want them on?
Yes, I want them on. It's cold.
Okay,
That's why I
there you
asked
go.
for it. Thanks.
Yeah, there you go. No, I agree that I think that it has gone too minimal. I would argue that even the Polestar is a little too minimal. I like buttons and knobs and switches. But from a driving experience, they're both great cars to drive, both a ton of fun. The Model 3 feels a little bit more tossable. The Polestar 2 feels a lot more stable at high speeds. It's a lot more comfortable on road trips, and they both have a pretty firm ride in the performance trim.
Yeah, we just put on some cross-climate tires on this that are, the all-weather tires. And they're a little bit smaller, but they do make the ride a little bit firmer. I would say ride-wise, they're both pretty firm, very sporty.
And then we got to talk about the elephant in the room, Dad.
Which is?
The Tesla supercharging network.
Yes.
Now, Polestar is switching to NACS, but all 2024 Polestars, as far as I know, are all sticking with J1772 on the level 2, and then CCS for level 3. So we don't have access to supercharger network currently with the Polestar 2. It also charges at a peak of 155, whereas the Model 3 does have a much faster DC charge rate.
Well, they say 250, but I've seen that for, let's say not seconds, but minutes, and barely minutes, right? We've driven this vehicle across country twice now and done a lot of supercharging with it, and it will burst up to 200 or 200 plus, but it never holds it very long.
Very true. All right, Dad, well, let's close this puppy up and see which one we drive home.
All right, Tommy, I said at the beginning of this video we're going to talk about price, and there is a substantial price difference. The Tesla Model 3 Performance starts at what?
Well, as equipped, that car is about 53, starts in the low 50s.
Yep.
Now, as equipped, this Polestar 2 Performance, Napa leather, metallic paint, about 69. So we're looking at about a $15,000 price gap between these two. Of course, if you get the Model 3 with a full self-driving pack, that's a $12,000 option. That's going to close the gap quite a bit.
But the Model 3 does qualify for the full $7,500 federal tax credit.
Yeah.
And it will continue to do so, even though the other Model 3s won't next year.
Yeah, so look, from a value standpoint, even if you look at before the tax credit, Model 3 starts in the high 30s, Polestar 2 starts in the high 40s, so there's about a $10K gap. Now for me, I think the Polestar is a better car to live with on a daily basis. I love the driving experience and the quality feels top notch, but the price gap is pretty hard to justify.
Yeah, I can't justify this car after federal and state rebates or tax refunds, however you want to phrase it, is a $40,000 car. That is a $69,000 car, Tommy. There's $15,000 to $20,000 difference between the two. The cost of a used Jeep Wrangler, and I can't justify the difference in price.
I mean, to be fair, here in Colorado, this probably would still qualify for the state credit. Right, which is nice. It's just the federal credit. I agree, the price is a hard thing to swallow, but the car is great, Dad. I love this Polestar 2. It's one of my favorite driving EVs on the market. It's just a little pricey.
All right, guys, there you have it. Thanks for watching. Remember, where should they go if they want to check out all of our other reviews and videos?
Yeah, alltfl.com is where we're all at. And as always, has been Tommy and Roman. And behind the camera, Ian. We'll see you in another video.
Ciao.